Good morning. Happy to be back here as the season is progressing closer and closer to our winter time. We're going to start with a song today that's a little bit of an invocation. It's a lullaby from the Lakota people, and it has some words, Lakota language in it, but it has a part that just says, hey ya, oh ya, hey. So I think those are some sounds that you all can make, and you'll pick up that melody really quickly, and when you do, just let your voice and heart start to open up with those sounds. And what we're singing is, night is good, sleep little boy, sleep, the night is good, the dark is good. So as we're heading toward that season of cool and dark, we say it is good.
Let's pray together to create our sacred space together today. O Eternal One, our Creator, we do come together today with thankful hearts. You gather us, you call us. You call us from far and wide at this Thanksgiving time of year to come together in our families and in our communities to remember to be thankful. We are your children. We belong here on planet Earth, and it's with this sense of belonging and not possessing that we come into this Thanksgiving time. Thanksgiving, we're here to celebrate the life that is given to us. We celebrate all the newborn babies that have come into our midst this year. A little baby that was here just a couple weeks ago that belongs to Destiny and Andrew. And we celebrate the lives that have passed from us this year into the other dimension. We celebrate Paul and Sipko. We celebrate Bill and all the ones that are in our hearts that I don't even know whose names to speak, but we celebrate their lives, that they are still with us, but in the other dimensions. We celebrate the marriages and the separations. We celebrate the reconciliations. We celebrate life in our beloved community. We celebrate all of our illnesses and challenges. We celebrate them because in everything that comes to us, there is a gift. So today, as we're here together, we ask you to open our hearts even more and help us to remember the gift, to realize the depth of our purpose here on earth, that it is to know you and thank you and learn to dwell with that consciousness of your presence forever and ever. So we welcome you here right now. Come and be with us. Help us as we celebrate this autumn and this Thanksgiving time. Help us, we pray. Oh, amen. We're glad to have the children amongst us, the great representative of the life in our midst. We've got little Nova, like a shooting star, and you children there. And this is a time when we love to have you come forward if you'd be willing to, and we give you a little blessing. And I want to talk to you for a minute when you come up here today. So come up here for a minute. We'd love it if the three of you back there would come too. Yeah, and there's another one behind you, Patrice there. Yes. Do you guys like jokes? Do you like jokes? Yeah? Well, I heard some Thanksgiving jokes. You know, Thanksgiving's on its way. Do you like Thanksgiving? Do you have a good time on Thanksgiving? Lots of good food and everything? Well, there's a joke about Thanksgiving that actually has my name in it. Do you know what my name is? Norma. Norma, okay? So here's a joke. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Who's there? Norma Lee. Normally, I don't eat that much. I think that's a Thanksgiving joke. Okay, here's another one for you. What kind of music did the Pilgrims like? Plymouth Rock. Okay? All right, one more, okay? If the Pilgrims were alive today, what do you think they'd be most famous for? Their age. They'd be pretty old, wouldn't they? All right, I'll just give you one more since you're laughing so hard. What smells the best at Thanksgiving dinner? Your nose. Oh, you get it? Well, it's a good time of year to think about having fun and jokes and laughter together. But when you're around the Thanksgiving table with your families, it's a good idea to ask people at the table what they're thankful for. You know, and you can have a fun time talking with each other when you get together with your families by asking them what they're thankful for, okay? So why don't you do that this year when you're having your Thanksgiving time together, okay? Talk about what you're thankful for. So thank you for being with us, and us adults would like to bless you with our energy, and we say, we love you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ light shining in you. Thanks for being with us, and have fun in your Sunday school class with Patrice. It's that away, Nova, that away. See, they're all heading out that away. That away. Okay, you adults, I couldn't just do a joke for the kids. I have to do one for you too. Okay, so this is an adult joke. Okay? Okay. So there's an old man in Miami, and he calls up his son in New York and says, listen, your mother and I are getting divorced. 45 years of this is enough. And the son screams back on the phone to him, Dad, what are you talking about? Well, we're just getting to the point where we can't stand the sight of each other any longer. I'm sick of her face and I'm sick of talking about this, and call your sister in Chicago and tell her. And he hangs up the phone. Wow. Well, the son's worried, so he calls up his sister, and she says, oh no, we can't let them get divorced. So she calls up her father immediately and says, you're not getting divorced. Don't do another thing. My brother and I are flying home tomorrow to talk about this. And until then, don't call a lawyer, don't file any papers. Do you hear me? We're coming. And she hangs up. And then the old man turns to his wife and says, okay, they're coming for Thanksgiving and they're paying their own airfares. Have you gone to any Great Lakes like that to get your kids to come?
I've heard that one before.
So Thanksgiving. Today I want to talk to you about the Native American ceremony called the Potlatch. And I want to compare it to what the pilgrims did at the first Thanksgiving, and then talk about the mystical power of gratitude and Thanksgiving in our lives. And as I was saying to the children, I do want to encourage you this Thanksgiving year to really take up the spiritual practice of gratitude. And as I was saying to the children, when you're around the Thanksgiving table, whoever you're feasting with this year, why don't you make it a special spiritual conversation for some of the time that you're together? And you could ask questions to each other like, who supports you and why? What do you do to show your gratitude to those who love you every day in small ways? Or maybe you could ask, if you could sit next to anyone right now, who would it be and what would you tell them? Or you could say, what's your favorite memory with a member of your family? Or you could ask, who do you connect with at this table and why? So, you hear what I'm saying? There's some good questions, and I'm going to post, there's a whole list of these questions, and I'm going to post them on the Unity website and our Facebook so that you can think about these, and then there's going to be some other poems and prayers throughout the service that will also be on the website. But let's make this Thanksgiving a very meaningful time, a time of really practicing Thanksgiving. Now we're going to have our second song, and is it let me
So beautiful. We have to sing it in unity, and everybody knows it. You remember it? It goes like this. Give a little bit. Give a little bit of your love to me. You remember that? Okay, so sing along.
Give a little bit of your love.
so fun to have Cerise sing these songs that we hear out and about, and to bring them here and feel them in a spiritual space. So I love what the song says about giving. Just practice giving, because we're all going home. And what is home? You know, the kingdom of heaven, the other dimensions. We're all going to where the giving is easy. So we might as well practice it here. And there's a reading today from Science of Mind. There's so many great readings in this magazine. I highly recommend it. You can get it sent to your doorstep. And the one for today that I chose, it says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." So when you think about giving, you know, if you're giving from that source where you have everything, since the kingdom of God is a kingdom of abundance, and since it is a kingdom which contains everything, then it becomes of prime importance to seek this kingdom, which Jesus so plainly stated is to be found within the self. Of course, he was referring not to the lesser self of the ego, but to the self with a capital S, upon which is set the stamp of the eternal, the God self, the real self. The real self of ours is inseparable from God. Thus, in discovering it, we also discover the abundant supply of God. All the sages and seers have plainly told us that we already walk the streets of this glory, this city called heaven. But our vision is blurred by shadows cast on the wall of our human experience. So today, I consciously choose to live in the eternal presence, the kingdom of God within me. And I know that I am one with all other citizens who inhabit the celestial metropolis. There, in a true communion of spirit, I find unity, peace, and joy. So that kingdom that we're all a part of right now, that we're walking the streets of right now, and that we are going home to someday. It brought to mind for me when I read that reading the people that have walked here in our midst and are no longer with us right now. And as I was thinking about that, so interesting, because I got a call and an email, one from Anya Kumara, you know, who was here with us, and Paul, her husband, for several years, and she often participated in the service here and helped to create it with me. And she sent me an email and actually called me on Skype in the wee hours of the morning, because it's several hours later where she is, and asked that this be read, because it was just about this time last year when Paul died. So I've asked Gloria to come and read this beautiful message to us from Anya, which brings her and Paul present with us here. The best thing is to hold it. Yeah.
Is that strong enough?
Yeah, that's good.
From Anya Kumara to Unity. Dear friends, on November 24th, 2013, it will be 1 year that our beloved Paul passed through his doorway of death to the realm of we know not where. Please, join me at sundown wherever you are. November 23rd, next Saturday, light a 24-hour candle in honor, in memory of the unique relationship we had with Paul, and affirm our faith and love for each other and this field of connectedness that is our family. I have faith and trust in the divine timing of his passing and remain in the fullness of my heart during this time of my cloister walk. In my aloneness and grief here in Mexico, I see the faces of many of you beautiful souls, and I am grateful for your various ways in assisting me. There is an eternal presence, what I call soul, that remains of Paul, and I choose this time of remembering to celebrate him in the Holy of Holies within my heart, honoring the one who was a great lover of life and people and who was my devoted husband. I have included the 11th elegy for Paul. With love and blessings and gratitude, Anya Kumara. The 11th elegy to Paul from Rilke. Enter death too. When you died, there broke across the stage through the gash your leaving made a shaft of reality. Green of real green, real sunlight, real trees, and the moss of your greening broke through my heart, unborn to the journey you were taking. A year passes, and Gaia's body drops her custom of color, surrendering to browning and dry, wet leaves. But the wheel turns, and the seeding, budding, and flowering take on a new life. You did not return. Your citizenship is in another country, an imaginal realm that touches us through memory, maybe dream, where you wear the gleaming heart of a moss green love, a reminder of what was.
Anya, I know you'll be listening to this service later, and I just want you to know that we all are remembering you and Paul, and so thankful for your presence with us. And then another message that I got this week was from Margaret Tucker, Ellen Aykroyd's partner, and she is not passed away, but she's in Portland undergoing cancer treatment, and she sent us a letter to us that she wanted read to us this morning too, and I'd ask Donna to read that.
Margaret wants you all to know that she is 3 months into a year's care in Portland for a second and serious cancer. She's recovering well from a long and unexpected surgery since being diagnosed in late August. She'll be in ongoing treatment into the summer of 2014. She left on a 7-day trip to visit her mother-in-law in Canada. She stopped off in Portland for an ER visit and was told that she needed immediate surgery and has been working closely with a holistic oncology team ever since. She didn't get to see Nova in Canada. This is an unfolding of blessings and painful miracle. Nature is providing her with a new birth through a hard labor, one she would not have chosen for herself. Margaret is deeply relieved to know that the reason for the past several years of her growing fatigue, her loss of appetite and life force, cancer is a formidable foe. Yet immediately following surgery, her strength, her vitality, her humor, and her deep love for life returned to her in full force. Her path ahead is the road less traveled, and not at all what she had foreseen. She sends you all her gratitude for your prayers and deep healing and meaningful life ahead. She's grateful to be able to listen to Norma's Sunday teaching on the website and what she wants to share with all of us. And she wants to share with all of us this: sudden shock and trauma to body, mind, emotion, and spirit is requiring her to change in weeks and months what has taken decades to prepare for, many years to tenacity and laser focus to stay in place for the painful labor required to move through the darkness, the shadow, into the phoenix.
So thank you, Margaret, for delivering that message to us and for being such an inspiration to our lives. When I talked to her on the phone, her voice is strong and she is forging forward into great changes, faced with courage in our life. So let's send her our prayers and our communal comfort. There's a beautiful song that Cerise is going to sing for us now, and as she sings it, I want you to draw to your mind and heart both Anya, Paul, and Margaret, as well as people in your life that you're thankful for. Maybe there are people right here that you've gotten to know that have meant a great deal to you, or people in your family, people in your community, friends and teachers. So this is a song of deeply feeling and reaching out in our hearts to those people.
while you're in the world. How about getting off all these antibiotics? How about stopping eating when I'm full up? How about them transparent dangling carrots? How about that ever elusive kudo? Thank you, India. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, disillusionment. Thank you, frailty. Thank you, consequence. Thank you, silence. How about me not blaming you for everything? How about me enjoying the moment for once? How about how good it feels to finally forgive you? How about grieving it all one at a time? Thank you, India. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, disillusionment. Thank you, frailty. Thank you, consequence. Thank you, silence. How about no longer being masochistic? How about remembering your divinity? How about unabashedly bawling your eyes out? How about not equating death with stopping? Thank you, India. Thank you, Providence. Thank you, disillusionment. Thank you, nothingness. Thank you, clarity. Thank you, silence. Thank you, unity. Thank you, community. Thank you, Reverend Nova. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, beautiful Jane. Thank you, all that gather here. At your own. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Okay, with all this priming of the pump about thank yous, thank yous are really important. And as I look back in Native American traditions and mystical traditions all over the world, it seems like thank you is some kind of a magical potion. It's something that mystical traditions all over the planet have known was very, very important. So I said that today I wanted to talk to you about potlatch, which is an ancient thank you ritual that first peoples who lived here in the northwest coast region of this nation practiced. And then compare it to pilgrims and what they did, why are we still celebrating that one moment from way back in 1620? There was something magical and special about it that I think we haven't quite plumbed the depths of yet. So let me talk to you about these two situations. The word potlatch, it comes actually from the Chinook jargon, from trade language that was formerly used along this coast here, and it means to give away. It came to designate a ceremony common to the peoples here, and especially of the tribes that speak Kwa. And it's in this language. It's called. It's about expressing our great joy and much more. This is what we call the potlatch. They say the potlatch is the very foundation of our system of laws by which we have always lived. So the potlatch, the giveaway, is the very foundation of the system of all of the laws by which these Native people live, and the cornerstone of our culture today. Potlatch was a system of economic and political and social exchange, which assured that all people had equal access to the rich resources of the Pacific Northwest. Routinely given away were not just food that was harvested from the bounty of the land, but clothing that was made especially for the occasion to be given away, artifacts and art, and functional items made from the cedar forests. So potlatch was a ceremony, a system of gathering in which people came together in order to do one thing: radically give it all away. And whoever had more gave more away. In fact, the ones who had more usually hosted it at their dwelling places. And it said that after the great giveaway, that the ones who had the most ended up having the least because they gave the most away. And that had the most honor with it. So it was a ritual of giving generously, radically. A Skagit man named John Forsby recalls this. He says, when the food was all gathered and prepared, and the baskets and jewelry and blankets and regalia were all made, then the messengers were sent out far and wide to spread the invitation. Hundreds of canoes began arriving and were welcomed to shore in a ceremonial fashion. People all gathered in the longhouse where fires broke the darkness and took away the chill, and many, many gifts were given. Beautiful blankets, hand-woven for over the year for the occasion, baskets, jewelry, clothing made from mountain goat wool, and canoes carved from the great trees, all to be given away. But most of all, there was the gift of the gathering of the people to serve as witness to this great custom, passed on through literally hundreds and hundreds of generations, so that the young ones could remember this and pass on the ritual of the potlatch. It was a very, very important gathering. It was at the Native people's core, and it taught love and honor and respect and sharing. The potlatch, it said, was the glue that kept the culture together. And as I talked about last Thanksgiving at this time, when the white people came, they forbid the Native people in the 1850s to hold the potlatch anymore. And it wasn't held again until the 1970s. In 1954, anthropologist Wayne Suttles wrote about the history of the potlatch amongst the Lumni Indians, and he said it was the mark of a great man, that if he had plenty, he liberally gave it away. Material wealth itself was only an indication that a person had non-material possessions. And it was this belief that the non-material possessions were what brought him the true wealth. So the non-material possessions, the most highly prized non-material possessions, were of three sorts. They would pass on at these potlatch ceremonies rights inherited from the ancestors, such as fishing rights to secret locations, rights to certain magical songs, dances, and how to do them, and certain ritual performances. Number two, they would pass on private knowledge obtained by an elder, member of the tribe, often called the echo elders, because they echoed the divine. And so to have something passed down from one of the echo elders to you was a great gift. And number three, they would pass on supernatural powers obtained through fasting or vision quests, powers that they had gained, that they could teach someone else and transmit how to be in touch with nature or with spirit in this way. So those were the most valuable gifts that were shared. It's said that in the mid-1800s, before these potlatches were stopped, that they were growing huge, and they would involve 8,000 to 10,000 people. And Chief Seattle had a big, giant longhouse on Puget Sound called Old Man House. And it was the most famous gathering place. And 8,000 people came from all over the Northwest coast to attend. So the potlatch, the great giveaway, you're getting the feeling of it, aren't you? And now let's remember the pilgrims for a minute. The circumstances which led this small band of people to come from Europe to the New World were not very pleasant. William Bradford, who was one of the pilgrims, describes what life was like for them in England. He said that they could not long continue in any peaceful condition, but they were hunted and persecuted on every side, so that their former afflictions were but as flea bites in comparison with those that now came upon them. Some were taken and clapped up in prison. Others had their houses beset and watched night and day. The most were fain to flee and leave their houses and habitations and the means of their livelihood. They resolved to go to the Low Countries, where they heard there was freedom of religion for all in Holland. After a few years of relative safety and freedom there, fearing the assimilation of their young into the Dutch culture and religion, they decided that the only way to preserve their faith and way of life was to emigrate to the New World across the Great Sea. So on November 20th, 1620, when the little ship, the Mayflower, reached landfall in Cape Cod, there were 100 men, women, and children on board. And they were disappointed to discover that they hadn't landed where they thought they were going to, which was down in the Virginia colonies. That's where they were aimed for. So they were 300 miles north, not in a very temperate climate, and they landed in November. After a few weeks of scratching out a living on the exposed spit of land near Provincetown, the settlers sailed across to the richly forested and protected mainland of Plymouth, where they hoped they would find food and safe harbor to ride out the first winter. But the next few months were to prove a nightmare. There was very little to eat. They survived on small portions of salt beef and hardtack, and they developed scurvy because there was no fruit or vegetables. Almost everyone fell sick, and fully half of the expedition died. Bradford tells the tale that so they died two or three a day, and of the 100, scarce 50 remained in the spring. They all took care of one another, and he said, in a word, they did all the homely and necessary offices which dainty and queasy stomachs cannot endure, and shall not be here named. In the historical record, it tells how the Wampanoag Indians came and took care of them too, and helped them through that winter. And in the spring, they realized that these pilgrims didn't know how to plant in this land and didn't know what kind of food they could make, and so they planted with them. They taught them how to cultivate the land. And so in that spring and summer, the colony had a lot of food come forth, and they would have surely been not able to survive without the generous help of these Indian people. So when the harvest came in October, in early November, as Bradford put it, they were safely gathered. They safely were gathered in ere the winter storms begin. And here's the part of the story that spiritually stuns me. In spite of all the hardships and the horrors that they had endured in the previous winter, and in spite of what must have been nearly bottomless grief and suffering, the surviving pilgrims decided to mark their good fortune, and they gave thanks to both the Creator and creation with an act of a radical giveaway. So they didn't hoard all that they had gathered. Instead, they called together the Wampanoag, and it said that over 300 Wampanoag came, and they gave away everything, all of their harvest. It kind of brings tears to my eyes to feel into this, you know. You would have thought that they would have wanted to hoard it, that they would have been very afraid entering into the next winter. But what Bradford said was, although it may not always be so plentiful as it was at this time with us, yet by the goodness of God, we are so far from want that we wish to give our thanks to the others who helped us and to partake of our plenty with us. So the part of this historical account that I want to focus on for us to help us is the challenging choice to make this radical act of gratitude. It's a spirituality that comes to us from Thanksgiving that we shouldn't be just romanticizing. No offense to Hallmark cards and the pictures that we have of pilgrims seated at the first fancy Thanksgiving table, all dressed up in fancy hats and clothes, but that is not what it looked like. They were haggard survivors, exhausted men and women, still very thin and weak, wearing little more than rags. And yes, they were grateful to have endured, to be sure, but looming over whatever happy feelings they mustered must have lingered incredibly deep measures of grief and fear. And so some miracle took place in the heart of those pilgrims. Some miracle that I would like us to tune into. What was it that happened inside of them that allowed them to do this radical act of giving? It seems to me that what makes the real Thanksgiving story remarkable is that this Thanksgiving, this radical act of giving, took place against this painful backdrop of grief. And so they had both that, and they had this spiritual longing to belong and to connect and to thank the people that had helped them. Somehow they were able to choose gratitude over bitterness. They chose generosity over greed. They chose thanksgiving over self-pity. The great philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once observed, it takes real courage to grieve, but it takes spiritual courage to rejoice. So this is our spiritual heritage that comes to us from Thanksgiving. These pilgrims made sense out of their lives and out of everything they'd been through, not by hanging on, not by trying to keep what they had had from the past, but they let go of their identity, they let go of their belongings, they let go of everything that they had known, and they gave over to this Native American way of being that the Native peoples were teaching them. Thanksgiving is one of the most magical holidays, I think, that we have, because it's about the transformation of the human heart in the midst of difficulty. Robert Emmons and Michael McCullough are two of the leading American investigators of gratitude, scientists, and they describe gratitude as personality strength. They say it's the ability to be keenly aware of the good things that happen and never take them for granted. Grateful individuals express their thanks and appreciation to others in a heartfelt way, not just to be polite, but it has an emotional sense of wonder to it. A thankfulness and appreciation for something deeper in life. Researchers are finding that individuals who exhibit and express gratitude are happier, healthier, and more energetic. Grateful people report fewer symptoms such as headaches, stomach aches, nausea, and they spend more time exercising. And the more a person is inclined towards gratitude, these researchers have found, the less lonely, stressed, anxious, or depressed they will be. So, pilgrims. Do you know any modern-day pilgrims? I've known pilgrims. Time and again I've met these wonderful, courageous individuals who have answered unfathomable pain and tragedy with brave and grateful resolve. Just briefly, there's a story of a guy named Joe Russo who teaches us the lessons about what I'm trying to get across here about what the pilgrims did through living his life the way he did. Joe was a strapping 24-year-old who drove a bulldozer in Memphis at the city dump. But one day he suddenly fell down in the shower, never able to walk again because of some strange, rare, degenerative neurological disease that came over him. And it quickly paralyzed most of his body. A year later, as a chaplain at the City of Memphis Hospital, this man who's telling the story said that he went to visit Joe there in his bed, and he was kind of hesitant to go and see him because he had heard about what happened to him and that he'd been in the hospital for 2 years now. And he even required a respirator because the disease had destroyed the muscles that moved his lungs. But he could talk, but only by constricting the few remaining neck muscles under his control. So the chaplain said when he first approached his door with trepidation, he didn't know what he was going to say to cheer up this man. How could a young man struck down by such a cruel disease in the prime of his life not be angry and embittered? And what comfort could this chaplain possibly offer him? He said, but what I didn't know was that Joe was a Thanksgiving pilgrim. His little 10 by 15 foot room was a spiritual sanctuary. And it was the social center for the 2,000 bed hospital. By sheer force of his personality and will, Joe refused to let this physical paralysis paralyze him spiritually or emotionally. Visitors poured into his room to hear what he would have to say to him. His Roman Catholic family started bringing him presents and gifts all the time. They just wanted to be in his presence. They came to sing and to read to him, and his room was always filled with flowers, silly doodads. And he said to people that he wanted them to come bringing the latest joke. So that's what inspired me to tell some Thanksgiving jokes to him. But Joe was tireless with his questions that he would ask the people that came to him. He would ask them about their purpose in life. He'd ask them about their love life, about their dreams and ideas, and about their opinions and prejudices. That tiny hospital room was one of the largest and loveliest human spaces. And this chaplain says that he'll always remember the rich hours of conversation and prayer and laughter that he had with Joe. What a beautiful spirit. Joe chose to live his life fully, vibrantly, even when most of what we would call life had been taken away from him. He was still grateful for the gift of life and ready to live it as fully as he could, without denying or trivializing the senseless tragedy which had befallen him. He chose hope over despair. He chose community over isolation. He chose laughter over tears. He chose hope. He chose caring. Joe chose life over death. That's what it's talking about when it says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things shall be added unto you. Joe was a pilgrim. I remember other pilgrims in my life too, don't you? I remember my friends Sharon and Jennifer in Santa Fe who were diagnosed with breast cancer in their 50s, and they had children they didn't want to leave. And yet they lived their final days with such verve, and they gave so much to the community. It was amazing to be around them. So at this Thanksgiving time, I'd love for you to call to mind pilgrims that you've known in your life, pilgrim people that you're thankful for, and speak about them. Remember them as we remember the pilgrims of old. Albert Camus once wrote, yes, there are deprivations. There are the deprivations which give rise to our worst sorrows, but what does it truly matter what we have lost when what we have lost is not used up? There are so many things susceptible of being loved, and surely no discouragement can be final. To know how to suffer, to know how to love, and when everything collapses, to pick it all up again, simply the richer from the suffering, happy almost, in the awareness of our misery. Viktor Frankl, another pilgrim soul who survived Auschwitz, said, the experiences of the death camp life show that one does have a choice of action. One can preserve a vestige of spiritual freedom, of independence of mind, even in horrible conditions of psychic and physical stress, Everything can be taken from us but one thing, said Frankl. The last of the human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And there in Auschwitz, there were choices to be made. And every day, every hour offered the opportunity to make a decision which determined whether you would or would not submit to those powers that threatened to rob you of your very self, your inner freedom. And one can decide what shall spiritually become of oneself. It is this spiritual freedom which cannot be taken away that makes life meaningful and purposeful. So I would say that gratitude is the single most important spiritual tradition of our lives. Contrary to popular belief, gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's an experience and then an action. So choosing to mindfully engage in gratitude as a ritual prepares and trains us to be able to access love and light even in the darkest of times. So on those days when gratitude is the last thing on our minds and hearts, maybe we'll allow ourselves to participate in this ancient, radical ritual of gratitude. I think that the Fillmores, the founders of Unity, were tuning into this. They talked about that we could have a metaphysical realignment. And that realignment, when it took place in our minds, and we aligned our minds with the divine mind, the creator of this universe, then a powerful force was set loose that would heal not only our bodies, but heal our communities and heal our world. Myrtle Fillmore said, when one's heart is glad, we give away gifts. Our Creator gave this to us to be our way of doing things, to be our way of rejoicing. Joy sends its shining beams throughout our consciousness. It dissipates all discouraged, doubting states of mind, all fears and apprehensions. It lifts one on the wings of the morning to the spiritual heights, where all things are seen in their right relation. Thank you, Myrtle Fillmore, for going through all that you went through of your suffering with your tuberculosis and everything to come through to this understanding of gratitude that you shared with us through this spiritual tradition of New Thought. You know, I love it that New Thought isn't just a modern, airy-fairy, New Age thing, you know, but it came from Myrtle Fillmore and her suffering. And she said, we need to sing songs of joy and peace in the unity spirit in every moment. Then we can drive away the gloom of disappointment by resolutely singing the sunshine songs. The metaphysics of the giveaway is that it results in joy, and it results in deep connections with our own souls and with one another in community. So on this Thanksgiving, I'm so thankful for you. And I would say, let's shout out together what we're thankful for. Let's shout out hallelujahs. Let's shout out big amens. And let's make this Thanksgiving a true ritual of magic and realignment. With a little background music, I'd like to just have us go into a brief meditation about this. So just feel yourself seated there in your chair, and your hips on the chair, your feet on the floor, and taking a deep breath then. You know, these ancient truths are in you. This truth of the giveaway, of radical thankfulness is in you. It's in your deepest self. And as you breathe deeply, I want you to imagine that there's an aspect of you that knows the patience of an old and ancient tree, a tree that has witnessed centuries go by. Pretend that you have an aspect of consciousness that has the patience of this very old tree, the knowledge and wisdom of this old tree that sheds its leaves every autumn and blooms again in the spring. With a quiet breath, invite this tree inside of you, sensing this part of yourself that is ancient and wise and comes and goes from this physical form. Maybe this tree represents your higher self, or maybe your wisdom self. She might reside in the deepest core of your being. She quietly makes her home in your heart, and in certain moments she speaks through your soul with this presence. She's part of you, and she's more than you. She is the God presence within you, always present. The presence of enoughness, the presence of abundance. It's as though she is awareness or consciousness itself. Acknowledge and appreciate this ancient tree that grows up in you, that grows down in you, down into the earth, that rises up in you with sap, life energy flowing through you, that reaches up through your branches to the heavens, that birds nest in your leaves and branches. There's this omnipresent intelligence that's in you. Listen to this tree. Her silence is your inner knowing. She is patient and kind and loving. Experience how she embodies all these qualities. This profound patience that knows what to do, that knows how to give and how to receive and how to hold all things in the balance of abundance and harmony. She is powerful. Her receptivity is powerful, and her letting go is powerful. She is spacious. She is open and kind, and she is you. In her there is total respect for what is, appreciation of all things, of whatever comes and goes as experience. She receives it all and welcomes it into her inner sanctuary. Invite this tree now to call your attention to your own deep wisdom. Let her remind you of who you are. Let her remind you that it's okay to let go what needs to be let go of. Let her bring you into this Thanksgiving season with a great sense of gratitude. And now in the finishing of this ritual, I want you to picture someone coming before this tree that is you, someone that you know, someone who's already passed over them, someone coming to you from the other dimensions, who's bringing all the wisdom of the other dimensions to you. See them walking towards you right now, towards this tree. They're coming to lay a gift at the foot of the tree. Who is you? Who is this person? Is it your grandmother or grandfather? Is it a friend who's passed on? See this person clearly walking towards you, and they're bringing you a gift. And you in turn, silently, because you are the tree, extend to them your heartfelt gratitude, thanking them for their life and all that they were and are and give to you. We thank you, our beloved one, for coming to us from the other side, reminding us that we're really 1 foot there and 1 foot here. That's why they call us one-footed shamans sometimes. And as the great tree, you bend your branches, your leaves flutter. You thank this being. And then on the other side of you, of your great treeness, the other side of your trunk, someone is coming towards you who's alive now, who's in your life now, and it's someone who you're very thankful for now. It may be someone you also need to forgive, or someone you need to say something to. And picture this person coming your way, even if you have troubles with them, as this great tree, this immense wisdom, this great openness of heart, this radical giveaway nature that you are. You welcome this person who's alive now, who needs your healing presence. And this person comes and buries his or her head in your bark and starts to cry and weep. And you, the tree, are comforting them, embracing them with your love and wisdom and healing them. You're letting this person know that you're thankful for them, for their life. Now draw your awareness back into the inside of your trunk, this great tree. And know that you truly are the kingdom of heaven, residing within you, with all wisdom and all memory of ancient know-how, ancient skill in knowing how to bring all things into harmony. You, the tree, you, the ancient one, you, the wise one, and be thankful for yourself, for this precious, precious life that you've been given. May you walk softly and with grace. Oh. I forgive you. Thank you. Magical words that came out of your mouth in that moment. It's a great example, Walter, of the magicalness that we're talking about here, of the power of transformation. So, thank you. And now is our time to take the offering.